How far can a child's song travel when it's born not from comfort, but from hunger, hope, and love? His small hands cradle a worn guitar, its body scarred, its strings uneven, yet it's the only thing in his world that still sings back to him. Every dawn, Eli's voice drifts through the narrow alleys, soft and pure, cutting through the noise of vendors and engines. People stop, not out of pity, but because there's something in his song, a quiet ache that feels like it belongs to everyone. He sings of love, loss, and longing, words he doesn't fully understand, but emotions he knows by heart. Behind him, at the edge of the street, sits Lola Rosa, his grandmother. Her frail figure leans against the wooden frame of their makeshift stall. Her eyes, tired yet gentle, watch Eli as if he were the only light left in her fading world. She coughs softly, wrapping herself in a thin shawl. Eli knows that each song he sings is a prayer, not for fame, not for applause, but for one more day with her. Coins drop into a rusty tin can beside him, small blessings from strangers who hurry past. Each metallic clink carries the weight of his next meal, his grandmother's medicine, and the dream of something better. But for now, this street is his stage, and the sky above, his only audience that never leaves. As dusk turns to night, Eli's voice grows softer. The city lights shimmer like stars trapped in puddles. Somewhere deep inside, he wonders if anyone, anywhere, truly hears him. And yet, in that uncertainty, his song continues, pure, fragile, and full of life. Because for Eli, singing isn't just survival. It's the only way to keep believing that even a forgotten boy can someday be remembered, not by name, but by the sound of his hope. It was another humid afternoon in Manila, the kind that made the air heavy and the city shimmer with restless noise. Beneath an underpass painted with peeling murals, Eli stood with his old guitar, singing against the echo of footsteps and engines. His voice, small yet soaring, filled the hollow space like sunlight breaking through clouds. People rushed past, office workers, students, tourists, their eyes fixed on their phones, their minds elsewhere. But one man slowed his steps. Michael, an American filmmaker traveling through the Philippines, stopped when he heard that voice, raw, trembling, and achingly real. It wasn't perfect, but it carried truth. It was the sound of a soul fighting to be heard. Michael stood still, camera hanging around his neck, as Eli's song rose through the tunnel. The boy sang as though he was pouring out the pain of every hungry night, every unanswered prayer. Around him, traffic rumbled and life went on, but for those few moments, the world seemed to pause. Without a word, Michael lifted his camera and recorded a short clip, just a minute of the boy's song echoing through the tunnel walls. When Eli finished, he bowed shyly, unaware that someone had captured the voice that would soon touch millions. That night, in a quiet hotel room overlooking the city lights, Michael uploaded the clip online. He titled it simply, "The Voice That Stopped Manila." Within hours, hearts around the world began to listen. The video spread like wildfire, across screens, across borders, across languages. People wrote comments filled with disbelief and tears. "Who is this boy?" they asked. "Find him." Back on the streets, Eli slept beside his grandmother, unaware that his voice, once carried only by the wind, was now being carried by millions. Somewhere across the ocean, people he would never meet were replaying his song, feeling something they couldn't explain. For the first time in his life, Eli's music had escaped the walls of poverty and traveled into the hearts of strangers. Destiny had heard him singing, and it was finally singing back. Morning sunlight spilled over the crowded alleys of Eli's neighborhood, turning tin rooftops into mirrors of gold. But inside the small shack that Eli and Lola Rosa called home, something had changed. A knock came at their door, sharp, unfamiliar. When Eli opened it, he found a small crowd gathered outside. Reporters, camera crews, neighbors, all smiling, all talking at once. Someone held up a phone showing a video of him singing under the underpass. It had millions of views. His voice had crossed oceans. The world had found him. Eli stood frozen, his heart pounding in disbelief. He wasn't sure what to feel: joy, fear, confusion. They all tangled together like the guitar strings he'd spent years trying to fix. Lola Rosa placed a trembling hand on his shoulder, her eyes wet with pride and worry. Within days, messages poured in from around the world. A local charity reached out, offering to sponsor Eli's trip to Singapore to audition for Asia's Got Talent. They said his story had touched millions. They said the world wanted to hear him again. This time, on a stage brighter than any he had ever known. As he prepared for the journey, the city that once ignored his songs now cheered his name. Strangers brought gifts, new clothes, a fresh guitar, even letters of encouragement. But in his heart, Eli remained the same boy who sang for coins under flickering lights. The night before his flight, Lola Rosa prayed beside him, her frail hands clasped tightly as she whispered blessings into the still air. Eli promised himself he would sing not for fame, but for her. For every night she went hungry so he could eat, for every tear she hid behind a smile. When the plane lifted off the next morning, Eli pressed his face to the window. The city of Manila grew smaller beneath the clouds. For the first time, he was leaving the streets, not to escape them, but to carry their song into the world. The stage lights were blinding, brighter than any sunrise Eli had ever seen. The crowd stretched endlessly before him, faces blurred by tears, awe, and silence. For a boy who once sang to strangers on the streets of Manila, the world now felt impossibly large. His small hands gripped his new guitar, the wood still smelling of varnish, but his heart still carried the rhythm of home. Backstage moments earlier, he had stood trembling, not from fear, but from the weight of dreams far bigger than himself. He thought of Lola Rosa, sitting by the window at home, her radio turned on, waiting to hear her grandson's name. Her frail smile became his strength. When the music began, Eli took a deep breath. The first note escaped his lips like a prayer. It floated softly into the air, filling every corner of the silent auditorium. His voice was raw and unpolished, yet it carried something no microphone could perfect: truth. As he sang, memories flickered in his mind like scenes from an old film. Rain-soaked nights on the street, the hunger that made him cry quietly in the dark, the laughter of children chasing jeepneys and his grandmother. Warm hand on his head telling him he was born to sing. Each verse built like a wave, carrying the pain and beauty of his life. The judges watched, stunned, their expressions softening as his voice trembled with emotion. But a hymn of every heart that had ever struggled, every soul that had ever hoped. When the last note faded, silence lingered, a silence heavier than applause. Then, like a breaking tide, the audience rose to their feet. Tears glistened under the golden lights. A judge reached forward and pressed the golden buzzer. In an instant, the air exploded in a shower of golden confetti. Eli looked up as it rained over him, shimmering pieces of light, falling like blessings from heaven. For a moment, he wasn't a poor boy anymore. He was a voice, one that had finally been heard.